Lesson 6, Sprites. Now, a sprite is a graphic character on the screen with properties that describe its location, movement, and look. So it's typically a 2D image on the screen. It could be a character like Mario or Pac-Man or something like that. But a sprite is essentially a picture that has different properties. Now, a property is an attribute that describes the characteristic of that sprite or of that object. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and continue on. Now there are these videos that you should watch. I'm going to skip it. And then some explanations on how to create a sprite, but we'll go through that. So for exercise number 4, it tells us how to create sprites and assign variables to them. So the default name for a sprite is Sprite. It says var sprite. Okay. In this program, it wants us to add a sprite, and then it wants us to draw the sprite. So first thing we do to add a sprite is we'll go to the sprites section. We'll say var sprite equals create sprite. So it gives us some comments here. It says creating sprites, so we'll just put that below there. It says var sprite equals create sprite at 200, 200. And then it wants to draw it. So we'll go to world. Remember, these are 2 different toolboxes you can use. And we'll grab the draw sprites and put it under drawing. So first we've created a sprite. With the name is Sprite. We could change that. And it's creating it at an X and Y position of 200, 200. And then it's going to go ahead and draw the sprite. So now it's created a sprite. And right now it's just giving us a blank square. But we'll fix that later. Okay, next step. When run, where will the sprite, my sprite, be located? Okay, we've got a variable called my sprite, and it's creating a sprite at 300 for the x. So 300 for the x and 100 for the y. So it looks like it'll be right here. Okay, this will be where it's at. And then it says draw sprites, which actually draws the sprite. So let's go over to A, select A, and then we'll hit run, and it did draw it here in the top right corner. So let's go ahead and hit finish, continue, and we'll move on to exercise 6. So this program should create 2 new sprites, one on the left side of the screen and one on the right, but it's only drawing one, as you can see here. It says you don't need to add any code, just rearrange the code already present to make sure both sprites show up, like in the picture on the right. Well, if we look in the code here, it says var left sprite equals create sprite at 100 to 200, and then it says draw sprites. So it creates a variable called left sprite, and then it draws it. After it's drawn it, it's creating a new variable called right sprite with the x and y position of 300 and 200. But it's not saying to draw it. That's why it's only drawing the first one, because the first one is above draw sprites. Remember, it goes in order. It creates a sprite, then it draws it. Then it creates a sprite, but there's no draw here. So what we'll need to do to draw them both is just simply move this bottom one above the draw sprites command, and now it will create 2 sprites, and then it'll draw them both. All right, so the next one is just a video about the animation tab, which you can watch on your own. And then some instructions on how to use that. If you need it, go ahead and read through. So exercise 9, let's go ahead and run this real quick and see what we've got. It says over in the animation tabs, you'll see 3 images that have been loaded for you right here in the animations tab. You can click here to get there. We've got 3. We've got alien, bunny, and flybot with a capital B. Let's go back over to code. Once you've created a sprite, you can use sprite.setAnimation, which is here in the sprites section, to change the look of your sprite from a rectangle to a picture. All the images you have loaded in the animation tab show up in the drop-down menu. So we've already got this actually in here. It's already been placed in there. So we've got var cool sprite equals create sprite 300, 300. And then make sure these names match. Cool sprite.setAnimation is alien. So what it wants us to do in this one is change the sprite to your favorite image from the animations tab. So remember, we had the alien, we had the bunny, and the flybot. I'm going to choose bunny. And then we're going to go ahead and run it and see what happens. Okay, and we've got a bunny, and we can change this to Flybot. And now the animation is being changed to Flybot. We run it again, and we've got the Flybot. In exercise 10, it's telling us how we can use the animation tab to upload or draw our own image. In this one, we're going to make a flying kite, and you can search the web for an image, or you can draw from scratch. So if you go ahead and click on animation here, you can just hit plus, and you can choose to upload an image from the web that you've downloaded. You can choose one of these pictures here. There's lots of things in here that could be used as kites if you want. I'm going to close this. Or if you would like, you could draw it. Saying draw your own. Let's make a really, really basic kite real quick. So we'll make this fast. Okay. And I got my wrong color on there. There we go. And let's pick another color. Let's go a yellow. And I'm going to fill the inside with yellow. There we go. There's my not so beautiful kite. Okay, so I've got this animation 1. You can leave it as animation 1, or if you want to change the name, you can. I'm just going to say kite for the name, but you could leave it if you wanted to. So I'm going to go back over to code, close this little box out. All right, so now we'll need to go ahead and set the kite. So what we'll want to do is once we've got our image in there, like I said, you could upload or you can draw it, then we'll want to choose it. So we've got var kite equals create sprite at 350. Then I'm going to go sprites again, sprite.animation. Remember, we have to set the animation. Now, this says kite for the variable name, so we need to also make sure we're setting that same variable name, the animation for the same variable name. So kite, kite. Okay, they match. Now, animation could be whatever you downloaded. Mine, I drew a picture of a kite. So I'm going to go ahead and run this, and now I've got my kite that shows up with the x position of 300, y position of 50. That's why it's showing up right here. Okay, so that's it for that one. If you go ahead and hit finish, we can move to the next exercise. In this exercise, it wants to tell us how to resize our kite or sprites using the sprite.scale command. Okay, so we've got here the program should already include your newly uploaded image, but it's probably not the perfect size, so we can use sprite.scale to change it. All right, so if I want to change this sprite.scale, I'll come over here, sprite.scale, it's in the sprites menu, and put it right below kite.setAnimation. Now once again, I don't have a variable called sprite. I have a variable called kite, so let's make sure it matches. Kite.scale equals, I think my kite's a little big, so I'm going to make it just a teeny smaller. So instead of a sprite scale of 1 is your normal size, whatever your picture size was. So if you want to shrink it down, you can do 0. Some number, or if you want to make it bigger, you could go larger than 1. You could go 2, 1.5, depending on what you want to do. So I'm going to make it a little smaller, so 0.75 would be less than the original size. And there we go. Now there's a little bit of space upside above the kite. Let's go ahead and hit finish, and we will continue from here to exercise 12. We need to match the code with the image it will produce. Now this might be hard to see on your screen, so if it is, I apologize. So we've got a background sky blue, and then it says draw sprites, and then it gives a bunch of variables for the sprites and creates them. So because it's calling draw sprites before it's telling you what the sprites are, it's only going to draw a background. So this matches this. That's fine. Let's go to the next one. This next set of code. Background sky blue. Okay, so it should have a background at least. And then var dog, create sprite. And then the dog set animation to corgi. And then it draws the dog with draw sprites here. So this one should only have a dog on there and the background. So I'm going to move this to the bottom if I can. There we go. Forgot to move these over. There we go. Okay, so we've got 2 more. Background sky blue. We've got a dog variable, which is creating a sprite. but it's not setting the animation yet. So it's drawing a sprite. So what sprite is it going to draw? It's got a variable, it's got a location, but it's drawing a sprite, but it doesn't say what the sprite looks like. So this should match with your empty box for your sprite because it's not setting an animation for it. And then our last one, background sky blue, it's a variable called dog, and it's giving the dog an animation of corgi. It's a variable called elk, and it's giving the elk an animation of elk. So, and then it's drawing the sprites after it creates them. So that should draw both of them. Going to submit, and that is correct. So let's move ahead to 13. You can put text anywhere you like on the screen using text. It wants us to change the displayed text in the provided code. So I'm going to change this. Hello world. And then it wants to add a second text to write in a different part of the screen. So I've got a background light yellow, text hello world. I run that, it's pretty basic. I'm going to go to drawing, then I'm going to go to my text, and I'm going to give some more text. Today is Wednesday. And then I will put it in another location of the screen. Let's put it in the bottom right. So let's say, oh, maybe 300, 300. And it also says the default text size is pretty small, but you can use text size to change that. So let's change the text size of just the bottom one. So I'm going to place it just above the bottom line of text. I'm going to change this to 20. That should make it fairly large enough to read. Oh, but I placed it too far over on the right. So let's change the X position to maybe 200 so it can all fit on the screen. There we go. All right, lesson exercise 14. The scene has all the right code, but it's not in the right order. Remember, the computer will execute these in order, so it draws whatever's on top first. So, first thing it's doing, it's creating a variable and setting an animation. That's fine to leave at the top. However, we want to actually draw the snake before we draw the bars and before we draw the text, because the bars and the text are on top of the snake, keeping him in prison, looks like. So I'm going to say draw sprites is going to be after we do the background. Okay, let's see how that looks. Okay, getting closer. Now we have text that's still behind the bars. So it looks like text needs to be the very last. So if we go to our text, we've got our text that says greetings, but we also have the size for the text and we have the color for the text. So let's go ahead and move all three of these down to the bottom. So it'll place the text very last, which should show up on top of everything else. Now it looks just like the picture. Next, we'll want to create our own sprite scene. As you can see in here, it's drawn a scene with the background, some ellipses, it's added some text, as well as has some sprites created and drawn. So that's what you'll be working on from 16 through 18 at the end of this lesson. And I'll go ahead and create a video for that as well.